Hi, welcome to my video. I'm Jennifer Roberts. You're catching me on my YouTube channel, Bitchute channel and Facebook page at True Divine 44, or you can get me at The True Divine on Instagram and Twitter. Any likes, shares or subscribes, and likes and tweets. And of course, most importantly, comments are greatly appreciated. Much love to everybody who's doing that thus far. You help me out greatly. So this is a writing on the wall. I don't know how long it'll be or how quick it'll be. It's just something I feel led to share and say. So this is where it's just something that came into mind, and it's a contemplation that comes often. And I've been accused of being in the occult, and I am. You don't need to accuse me. I absolutely own that. I'm always swimming in the hidden, which is what occult means, of course. I'm always going and diving deep into the hidden. I want to know. I want to know more. I want to discover more. I want to tie things together, interpret things, understand, overstand things from every aspect that I possibly can. It's just how I'm made. I can't explain it. It's how I've always been. And it's how it probably always will be. And so, yes, I am very much in depth with the occult, with the hidden. And there aren't aspects of that that I'm afraid of. There aren't aspects of that that I fear to delve into, because I think that everything reflects in on everything. So what can be the same symbols that can be within one occult meaning that has maybe intent behind it to cause harm or to deceive, and then the same symbol being harnessed for its properties, for its measurements, for its calculations, for the intent of doing good. It's the same symbol, but it has a different intent behind it. So, but it's still, represented as the hidden, the occult. Not too many people may know about this symbol or the properties that they can harness it for, or what they can use its energy, its calculations towards, what it will give most power to. That's how I see the occult. I think it's a lot about intent. It's a lot about the frequency that is put into everything. It's a lot about the energy that is behind everything. So I want to talk about a lot of the spiritual community I've noticed. And I just can see them and feel them. I see many hijacks along the way of very good movements that start off great, and then something happens, something is implanted, someone or some people are implanted. The headlines all of a sudden give a different take, put a different intent, a different view on a certain movement. So say the hippie movement, there was a lot of gems in that. There was a lot of knowledge coming forward within the people in that, of this oneness, of this love, one love, of this community spirit, of using Mother Nature's plants and resources to create things that were both would seem scientific, healing methods, and also would seem hippie, by putting certain palms on the skin and stuff. That can't possibly work as much as Big Pharma. Of course not. So of course, once that started to take hold, another hijack, another system, another download, another code is infiltrated into that movement. This is where we see that the hippie movement was bringing alive the hemp use, in which if we were able to use hemp right now for the things that it can be used for, how versatile it is, from, maybe clothes to cups, to whatever it might be, to powering up things, to healing properties, to pain relief. The list goes on. And of course, the so-called powers that be, that have control over the currency, which is part of another hijack, maybe before the hippie movement, and have control of the gas communities, the oils, the petrol, the diesel, the coal, all of those started to get a little bit antsy. They could see that, damn, this is This has been all well and good. Let them be hippies, let them have bandanas in their hair, let them have their jewelry on, let them hug trees. No, sorry, it's going to affect us. They're using hemp, they're starting to understand what hemp it can be used for. Excuse me, it can be used for this. Excuse me, it can be used for that. What it would be a healthier and better way to power things? Damn no. No. In comes the infiltration. In comes the code to rewrite the movement. In comes the magical headlines with numbers behind each letter to create a dialogue and a spell amongst the masses of the hippie movement being nothing but hippie, lazy, tree hugging, no good in, sex loving beasts who are always drugged up and they're not productive at all because they're always doped out. You know, all of these things started to come to pass. The hippie movement dies out to some extent, but it loses the power. It loses the power of, so its greatest strength, as in welcoming everybody, one love, was used against it. A virus was implanted, a virus was uploaded via the welcoming arms of the one love. It was very easy for people of the ABCs to dress up as, you know, people who wanted to be part of the one love movement, the unity in the community. It only takes then a few photo ops to see that you can add those to the headlines for greater impact of this is what these people get up to. It's not about love, it's about sex and drugs and laziness, hippie laziness. So, you know, we have that saying now, is hippie lazy? Hippie lazy? Or in that hippie movement, was it that time slowed down? You actually got a lot of stuff done. You actually found out a lot of knowledge and you could use that for the good, but you weren't in the treadmill of the hijack and psyops of the work 12 till 12, sleep, go back to work 12 till 12. So you've got no time to indulge in the nature's process of keeping well, of looking after self, of enjoying self, for goodness sake. So we see that these hijacks, and I see them everywhere I look. I see these viruses everywhere I look, ironically. I see these different codes that have been implanted into what start off as good movements in order to turn them, and you only need to turn them a slight way, because then when mainstream came through, mainstream is such a conductor to the masses of spells, and then those masses start to manifest the very thing that the spell is written, that the spell is written and supposed to make them manifest. And so this is where you get this triggered into a certain position, a certain stereotype, a certain sense of judgment, a certain sense of accusation, and these divides have kept going. And of course, we're many generations into what I feel was one major hijack a long time ago, that the divides are rife. And so it's for us to consider and look at everything from a place of observance, from a place of balance. If we feel triggered by anything anyone else says, then that's a precursor for us to say, okay, let's dig down deep into self for that. Why is that triggering me? Is it that I just don't like it? Well, no, if I just didn't like it, I just wouldn't listen, or I would just not like it. I wouldn't feel triggered. I wouldn't feel angry. I wouldn't feel insulted. So if those things are there, that is your body's way, just like your body's way of having a temperature or getting a rash is to show you that, you know, either you need something, you need a mineral, you need some rest, you need to look at yourself a little bit physically to see what needs to be balanced out. It's another way of us, it's another magical way that we have of knowing self more, know thyself, heal thyself, by looking at these triggers and these triggered responses of being insulted, of being in judgment, of feeling angry. And instead of it being something that can be a weakness and an unpleasantness, it can actually be yet another way of diving into the abyss of the occult of self, the hidden things that you didn't even know consciously were there, the little seeds that you didn't know were consciously there. You didn't consciously know were there, but because of this response, just like a temperature in the body or a rash on the skin, you give yourself that hint. It's a clue. You like that. Oh, who's that detective? Everybody says it's super old. Columbo, I think it is Columbo. You know, you're looking for the clues, looking for the responses in people, looking for where did they get triggered. You know. So this is what I want to look at of in the spiritual community. There's been a lot of hijacking, many layers of hijacking. And so one of the huge hijacks that I see is this fear of the dark, fear of your own darkness, fear of being accused of being the occult, the dark, fear of being in dark magic, you know, fear of being in being judged by that. Where did that come from? Because the dark is, I'm going to go into this. Look, if we go here, I'm getting slightly better at this. So if we go, you know, if we say this, you know, dark womb that we all, although things are going on there in China, but never mind, that we all are birthed from. This is dark. This is a world of its own. It's the dark night sky. It's the inner cosmos. And of course, no doubt, there are, you know, particles of light, you know. So there'll be, let's see, how can I, okay, so this needs to be more dark. Okay, so even darker, even better. So if we do this dark womb, and we are in this womb, this is where the physical body that we sort of come into, download into, you know, process into. We are done with this is done in the dark. This is the dark womb unmanifest, where all of a sudden we are being birthed and manifested. Is that going to work? Well, it's not really showing up, but there's flecks of light, you know, there's things just like the night sky, there's stars of light, you know, particles floating around. There's things in the amniotic fluid that are feeding us, that we're absorbing. And so that's life-giving. But in this dark womb, picture the fact that we have, I've made my notes, so I feel in this dark womb, there's a sense of safety. You know, we feel carried, we feel held, we feel swaddled. You know, it's not just if you see the very clever, you know, 3D scans, because I had high risk pregnancies, I had to see these 3D scans on the babies, and so they're so you can see the baby's features. It's amazing, but you see that the walls of the womb, they're not sort of held right up, you know, spread out there. And especially because I lost my waters early, the muscle is swaddling the baby. The womb itself is in touch with the baby. It's holding the baby, and as the baby gets bigger, it's even more and more held. And so there's this safety. And what do we do with babies? You know, mothers will teach new mothers, you know, swaddle your baby. I know they say don't but to soothe the baby, you swaddle a baby. If a baby feels tight, it feels held, it feels soothed, it will go to sleep, it'll feel safe. So we've got the safety of the womb. There's abundance here. There's absolute non-questionable abundance here. We are fed, we are nourished. So there's nourishment here in that abundance. We are absolutely, all of our needs are seen to, and we are absolutely nourished. we are fed, every need is met. In fact, the body of the female is so clever, so much more clever, and it gets more and more deep as to what the body of the female does to convert and just know, just to measure what the baby needs more of, i.e. cravings. And so this is where we see that there is absolute nourishment and there's abundance in that nourishment. It's unquestionable. So there's safety there. There's no wanting. And so here we go down and we've got this, it's still sensory. We hear the sounds of our parents. We hear the sound most of all of our mother's heartbeat, of the gurglings of her body. So we hear these things, and they're in rhythm. So it's sensory rhythm, because the heart is in rhythm, the blood pulse is in rhythm, pulsing through the body. Even noises of the gut, they'll be in rhythm, because it's all in a process. And so there is this sensory nature to it. There's the ability to put your hand on your womb as the baby grows, and the baby to actively want to touch that hand, want to feel that hand. So there's this sensory feeling here. And so then we've got this, there's nothing to do but discover self. We in these 3D scans, we see the baby, looking at the hand and putting the hand to the mouth and looking at the feet and moving the feet. And so we see that there's this nothing to do but to feel safe, have abundance in nourishment, have sensory things, and those sensory things being all about self. This is all about self. There's nothing else to distract from these sensory things that we are discovering about self. So then we go to the fact that this is a portal, and we are in this portal, and with all of the above, with all of this going on, we go through different portals of life. Our physical body is built. And so there's building blocks here, there's foundation, and we keep going through these different portals of self-discovery. And so then we have the fact that it's a warm place. It's warm, it's blood temperature, it's tepid, it's of temperance, it's of balance. It's not too hot and it's not too cold. It is a body temperature, it's warm. And so we've got all of these things that are happening in the dark, all of these things that are being created in the dark, all of these things that are being fortified in the dark, all of these things that are being provided in the dark. And there is so much that we don't even know now, with all of the science, with all of the machinery, as to the magic of life in the womb, and how the woman's body is able to do some of the things that it does. There are many, many more questions for every result, for every greater knowing of the pregnancy, or of how the woman's body reacts, how the baby's body reacts. There are many more questions that come up. It's the dark womb on manifest. It seems endless. The possibilities, it seems endless. The discoveries. And so we come out of a dark place and we come out beautiful. You look at a baby and you feel that bliss moment that is undescribable. Even looking at somebody else's baby, you get there. But when you're looking at your own baby, or you're looking at a baby that you truly just connect with, there's that moment that you lose yourself. You absolutely lose yourself. And there's this mystery looking in this baby's eyes, wondering where it's been, what it's been thinking, what it's been doing. Even though that realm, that portal, that womb was within you as a mother, you look and you gaze at this baby and you think, how have you been feeling? What have you been thinking? How did you get to be so beautiful? How did you get to be created so majestically? How did you get to be such a pure state of being? You get lost in it. Why? Because the dark is magical. The dark, the creative process, and the possibilities that that baby has behind its eyes, that only it knows truly. The whole process of it being in its own womb, in its own portal, that was the portal of somebody else, but there was absolute trust. It's mind-blowing. It blows my mind often. And so there's birth. We birth into the world. Most babies cry. Most babies cry, and there's often crying after the birth. A lot of babies seem to have a headache, and why wouldn't you? It's this process of coming out of this wonderfully safe and abundant and nourishing sensory place of just knowing self, knowing everything about your world, into a wider, bigger womb, a bigger portal, where the walls of the womb aren't snuggling you, they're not holding onto you. There's a much bigger space. You're a much smaller thing in a much wider expanse, a much wider space. Understanding this can help you in early motherhood to understand the process of what this baby is going through. And yes, there might be physical things that you attend to because of the crying, but just knowing that and understanding all of this is going on, you can just be there for the baby. You can just hold the baby. Bugger this, new things that come out to say, put your baby down crying, no. Hold your baby as much as you can. My African neighbor taught me how to swaddle Abby with a sheet, and it was better than any sling I'd bought, being a new mother, wanting all of the best slings and things like that, because every way she showed me each different fold to hold the baby in a different way, and that baby was held. It meant I could, once I was recovered, I could do everything with Abigail on my back, on my front. I could breastfeed her while I hoovered, and that's not to say that I did that all the time. I made absolute points of sitting down and breastfeeding her and just looking at her, because it takes you back to that moment of when they're born and I had cesareans and they're pulled round to see you, or when the baby's pulled up to your chest and you first look at them. It takes you back to that bliss moment, because all of a sudden there's your body doing what it was doing when they were in your dark womb unmanifest. So take time out if you're a new mother to do that. Yeah, it's great having these folds to get the things done that maintain the home, but that's not the most important part. I'm just saying it was a way that I could get the things done and still hold my baby. So go with your gut on that. Most mothers' guts don't want to hear their baby crying. They don't want to put them down to crying. And so you're birthed into this realm, and you're birthed into this much bigger womb with many more different aspects to get used to, different personalities and different sensory things, the sense of smell, all of these things that can be very overwhelming. And so in this world, as it goes on, it doesn't get any less overwhelming because of all these hijacks. So all of these hijacks a lot of them are to say, to be afraid of the very place you came from, to be afraid of discovering the dark, of self-discovering the dark, of the where you can create, discovering the dark of the hidden things, the knowledge. And so this is where actual knowledge and knowing of self has been indoctrinated into us to be afraid of the dark. And so we've got, if you look at the world, so say we've got the world here. So we've got the world, and so there's so much of the world to discover, but there's so much that we're afraid to discover. We get stuck in stereotypes. just like I was discussing at the start of this video, we get afraid of judgment, and we actually get into a place of judging others. What else did I put? We are in need, even as a baby. All of a sudden, for the first time, we have to recognize need and use a physical ability of crying to let others know that we are in need. We need nourishment. Whereas before, in that dark womb, it was just given, it was just there, it was just abundant. And we find ourselves, because of that, because of the fact that we all of a sudden are in need, we find ourselves in need all over the place. And a lot of these hijacks have taken a great deal of effort to keep people in need, and to maintain certain controls. We have many distractions, so many distractions from self. So we get further, and as we get older and older, we get further and further away from self. So what else? Questions. There's, instead of things just coming, instead of things just coming down into that dark womb, unquestionably, all of these questions come up. How do I do this? What about them? What do I feel about this? Well, how do I feel about that? We get so far away from our inner world, because what I'm going to go into that next bit. Fear. There's fear. We have fear indoctrinated into us. We have fear of so many countless things. And so this is where we get lost to the world. We are lost to this world because we let too many of these things come into play to take us away from what would be our inner world. Because the psyop is that we've always got this darkness inside our body. It's pretty dark. So instead of being inside the mother's dark womb, we are now inside actually all of the time. There's goings on, the same goings on that was going on in our mother's body within her womb is going on within our body. There's the same rhythm. There's the same pointers, like I said at the start of this reading. Triggers are even helpful, because if we can see them for what they are, and then go, so we get triggered in this world and see them for what they are and say, why am I stereotyping that person? We go back to our inner self. We dig deep into our dark womb and manifest into our darkness, to see where those seeds of wanting to place stereotypes on people, or wanting to fit a certain stereotype. Where did that come in from? We start questioning ourselves, we find that seed, we pluck it out. All of a sudden, we're free of stereotypes. Judgments, again, we always have the opportunity to go back and say, why are we judging this person? What is it? And you know, you might find that there's a place in that you're judging yourself, or that you are, if you don't judge, you're afraid of judgment yourself, because you're part of a team, you're part of a side. So if you don't judge somebody as the side is dictating to, and remember, that side might have been infiltrated without you knowing, and might be influencing the side's judgment or the side's call of judgment. So, you know, you would be swayed into something that actually doesn't really resonate with you. It's just resonating with a certain seed that it was implanted into you, a certain code. But if you can go back and question self into your dark womb, your dark body, the darkness of you, then you can eliminate this a lot of the time, all of the time. Need. Okay, so where am I in need, and why? Why am I in lack? Why am I feeling this lack? Is it because of this lack mentality that I'm being fed? Is it because I'm hooked into mainstream media? Is it because I'm hearing about food shortages coming? Is it because I've become so dependent and needy on big corporations to have pre-packaged food? Is it because I'm not putting myself forward because I'm afraid of judgment and stereotype? I'm going back, I'm questioning, I'm going to go back and find out why. Why is this? And again, this can be eliminated through this self-questioning of your dark woman manifest. And the distractions. How am I being distracted? What is this saying? What pre-programming is coming from these distractions? And so on and so forth. Again, can be eliminated. The questions. Why am I firing questions outside of self? You know, the questions about one political figure, or the questions about another person. I need to question myself. I need to question why I feel the need to put questions anywhere outside of self. Why do I need to do that? Because if I know myself, then I don't need to go and question others. I just can go by my gut. I can understand myself. I can be myself. Fear. Why am I feeling fear? Where did this fear come from? Was this fear from something in childhood? And now I can easily be triggered through headlines, through people around me, through people I choose to be around, because they resonate with a certain fear that I had as a child, or a certain fear that came in later down the line, a fear of abandonment. Why am I in fear of losing my relationship all the time? Oh, I see. I allowed a seed of abandonment to be put into me when I was with maybe a narcissistic person who constantly was with me, then ghosting, with me, then ghosting, and that fear of abandonment come in. Maybe my father or my mother went, you know, off with the milkman and didn't come back. You know, that's the fear of abandonment. Where did that come from? Well, yeah, I'm abandoned from that, but am I abandoned? No, I'm still here. I can find more of myself. You know, yes, parents are important. Yes, friends are important, but do they truly resonate with me and who I am? Or are they resonating with a fear of mine that was implanted from a different situation, either way back when or last week or yesterday? So we go back to self to question all of that. And so where the answers actually come from, all of the answers come directly from here, from self, and from self-awareness, knowing thyself. But yet all of these things work to keep us away from that. All of these things, I feel, are different layers of hijacks that come from this. I'm going to do more and more videos on this because it's been playing on my mind, but I wanted to know more. Something that is a lot more, something that is so far away from all of the things that are built to distract us, from something that is so technical, something that is so AI, something that is so algorithmic. I don't know how to spell that. Rhythmic. That'll do. Algorithmic. This black cube. And this black cube hides within religions, particularly. This, I think, was one of the main hijacks of where this came in. It hides in the law system. It hides in Hollywood now, and for a long time. And it hides in media, politics, and the list goes on now because we're so many generations down into this. And so if we look at religion, so if we've got religion here, religion came in, and all of a sudden, very quickly, Christianity started preaching that, you know, the pagans were into black magic. It put people in fear of them with this black magic, this voodoo stuff that they do. It put people in fear of judgment, that if they did this, they would be severely judged. And in the early days, that could mean death. That could mean torture. So it really did condition people to accept this. It told people the only way is to the light. The only good thing is the light. So again, totally unbalanced, because we should have the dark and the light, you know, but it's only the light. It's only the light that you can do. And that light only comes through following their rules. And so this is where a huge fear of the black, of the dark came in. And so when this fear of the black and the dark came in, that gave opportunity and rise for many hijacks thereafter. Because everybody is afraid to go into the dark abyss. Everybody is afraid to discover what all of these different factions of hijacks are into or doing. Everybody's afraid to look at that, because there's some point in themselves that they are afraid of their own blackness, of their own darkness. And a lot of it is indoctrinated through this bullshit here. And so that's more or less where I wanted to go. I've got to keep it a bit short because I've just heard my daughter come in, and I need to say it. But that's where, don't be afraid of the dark. And yes, now that we are so many generations down of not having our yin and our yang, our balance point, this balance point of the dark and the light, the balance point of us, that, there are some things that are in the so-called dark, in the hidden, that in our society that's going on, that we are afraid to look at, that may not be so nice. But the only reason they can exist is because we are too afraid to look at them. We're too afraid to face them. So that's the writing on the wall there, and I hope that helps. I hope that helps you delve into the dark abyss of self and discover self more and free yourself so much more from any of the seeds of hijacks that are causing you to not really want to discover, to not really want to let go of certain judgments and stereotypes that are limiting your frequency, limiting your currency, and holding you back. So I appreciate you all listening. Much love, stay balanced, and of course, stay whole in your dark and in your light. I love you all, and I'll see you real soon.